didn't start as a scandal. It started as a moment that should have been simple, respectful, professional, but instead it turned into something people can't stop talking about. And the wild part is, this isn't even about one mistake. This is about what that moment revealed. Because when people saw her reaction, they didn't just react to what she said, they reacted to what it meant. Now think about this. You are at the top of your game. You've built your name through discipline, focus, and years of hard work. People look at you as an example, not just of skill, but of mindset. That's the position she was in. So when another fighter went down and got injured, everyone expected one thing: respect, maybe a quick message, maybe silence. Either way, professionalism. But what people say they saw instead, that's where everything shifted. Instead of keeping it respectful, she allegedly mocked the situation, laughed, threw a comment out that didn't sit right with a lot of people, and it wasn't just random viewers reacting. Even people who had supported her before were suddenly pausing like, wait, what? Because moments like that don't just pass by quietly. They stick. They make people question things they never questioned before. And once that question is planted, it doesn't go away easily. At first, some people tried to brush it off. Maybe it was taken out of context. Maybe it wasn't as serious as it sounded. But then the comments started building. More people speaking up. More people saying the same thing. This wasn't a good look. This felt wrong. And slowly, the conversation changed from what happened to this says something. That's when things got deeper. Because now, it wasn't just about one reaction anymore. It was about character. And the timing, that made it even worse because this didn't happen in isolation. This happened while her name was already tied to something else that people were watching closely. That whole situation had already been pulling attention away from her career, already creating noise around her name. And now, this moment just added more fuel. It made people connect dots. It made people start asking, is this who she really is, or is something else going on? And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because when someone's actions start to look different than their image, people don't stay quiet. They start analyzing. They start comparing. They start remembering things they ignored before. And suddenly, one moment turns into a pattern. Now, here's the part that really shifted everything. A few days later, she came back and tried to soften it, said something more respectful, something closer to what people expected in the first place. But by then, it didn't land the same, because once people feel like something was forced or delayed, it doesn't feel genuine anymore. Instead of fixing the situation, it made people ask a different question. If you knew what to say now, why didn't you say it then? And that question hit harder than the original moment, because now it's not just about what you said. It's about why you said it the way you did the first time. And that's when the shift became clear. People weren't just disappointed. They were confused because they expected better. Not perfection, just better. And when expectations drop like that, it creates a different kind of reaction. Not loud anger, but quiet distance. And that kind of distance, it spreads, because now every move gets watched differently. Every word gets picked apart. Every reaction gets compared to this moment. And slowly, without anyone announcing it, the narrative starts changing. Not overnight, but fast enough to feel it. And right when it felt like things couldn't get more complicated, another layer came into the picture. One that had already been there the whole time. But now people started looking at it differently. And that's where the story really begins to unfold. At first, people kept the two situations separate. On one side, you had her career, her achievements, her reputation. On the other side, you had the personal situation everyone had been talking about. But after that moment, those two worlds started blending together. And that's when things got messy. Because now people weren't just judging what she did in the ring. They were judging how she was moving outside of it. And the more they looked, the more they started noticing patterns, not just in what she said, but how she reacted. how quickly she responded to criticism, how strongly she defended certain things, how emotional some of those reactions felt. And that's when a different kind of conversation started. Not about skill, not about talent, but about behavior. Some people began pointing out that her reactions didn't seem balanced, that there was a need to prove something over and over again, like she wasn't just responding to the moment, but to something deeper. And whether that's true or not, once that idea gets out there, it spreads fast because people start connecting it to everything else, even that earlier situation, the one people had already been watching closely. And this is where things get complicated because now people weren't just looking at her actions individually. They were looking at what might be influencing them, the back and forth dynamic. The attention one moment, distance the next. That kind of cycle can do something to a person, especially when it's happening in public. One day, everything looks perfect. The next day, it feels uncertain. And when you're in that space, your reactions can change. You might respond quicker, speak louder, try harder to show everything is fine. And from the outside, that doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like pressure. And people started noticing that. They started saying, this isn't just about one bad moment. This is about someone being pulled in different directions. And the more they talked about it, the more it seemed like things were slipping. Not in a dramatic, obvious way, but in small decisions, missed opportunities, moves that didn't make sense, moments where focus didn't feel the same. And that's where the concern started shifting from personal to professional, because now it wasn't just about image anymore. It was about career. People began asking, how did someone with so much momentum start losing direction like this? Because the potential was never the question. The ability was never the issue. It was the choices, and choices don't happen randomly. They come from mindset, from focus, from what's taking up space in your head. And when something outside your career starts taking over that space, it shows, even if you don't mean for it to. And that's exactly what people felt they were seeing, a shift, not just in behavior, but in priorities. And once that idea settled in, it changed how everything was viewed. Every interview, every comment, every post, it all started feeling connected. And then came another moment that made people pause again, when she made statements that didn't just sound emotional, they sounded unrealistic. Talking about situations that didn't match reality. And that's when people really started to feel like things were going too far, because now it wasn't just about defending herself. It felt like overcompensating, like trying to prove strength in a way that didn't land the way it was intended. And once that perception takes hold, it's hard to shake, because people stop seeing confidence and start seeing something else, something more fragile. And whether that's true or not, perception becomes reality when enough people believe it. And that's where things stand now. Not fully broken, but definitely not where they used to be. And the hardest part? This didn't come from one big mistake. It came from a series of moments, each one adding a little more weight, until it became impossible to ignore. Now everything feels different. Not because of one comment, not because of one situation, but because of how it all connects. When people look at her now, they're not just seeing the athlete they once admired without question. They're seeing someone going through something and reacting to it in real time. And that changes things, because once people start questioning your mindset, it affects how they see everything else. Your confidence doesn't feel the same. Your words don't carry the same weight. Even your silence starts to mean something. And that's the space she's in right now. A space where every move matters more than before, where every reaction adds to a story that's already being written without her control. And the truth is, this is the moment that defines direction. Not the past, not the achievements, but what happens next. Because situations like this can go two ways. Either it becomes a turning point, or it becomes a pattern. And the difference between those two is awareness. Taking a step back, seeing things clearly, understanding what needs to change. But that's not easy when everything is happening publicly, when every mistake gets amplified, when every reaction gets analyzed. Because in that environment, it's hard to slow down. It's hard to think clearly. It's hard to separate your emotions from your decisions. And that's why a lot of people don't recover from moments like this quickly. Not because they can't, but because they don't pause long enough to reset. They keep reacting instead of reflecting, and that keeps the cycle going. But here's the important part. None of this means it's over. None of this takes away the talent, the work, the achievements. What it does is highlight something else, something just as important: discipline outside the ring, control in difficult moments, the ability to stay grounded when everything around you is shifting. Because that's what separates a strong career from a lasting legacy. Not just what you do when things are going well, but how you handle things when they're not. And right now, that's the test. Not just for her, but for how people will remember this phase. Because people don't just remember wins, they remember moments that reveal something real. And this is one of those moments. So now it comes down to a simple question. What does she do with it? Does she keep responding the same way? Does she keep getting pulled into situations that take her off track? Or does she step back, reset, and take control again? Because the direction is still hers to choose. Even now, even after everything, and for everyone watching this, there's something to take from it too. Because this isn't just about one person. It's about how quickly things can shift when focus changes. How small moments can build into something bigger. How important it is to stay aware of what's influencing you. And most importantly, how necessary it is to protect your path, no matter what's happening around you. Because once you lose control of that, everything else starts to follow. So now the conversation is open. What do you think? Is this just a rough phase that she can recover from? Or is this something deeper that could keep affecting her moving forward? And if you were in that position, would you handle it differently? Because situations like this don't come with clear answers, but they always reveal something. And right now, people are paying attention more than ever. So drop your thoughts, because this story isn't finished, not even close.